5 secrets in scaling internationally. This is what our guest Alexandra will be helping to discover today. Alexandra is a multi-talented professional with a diverse background that includes experience in marketing and innovation, venture capital and mentorships. Her journey through the business world has been nothing but remarkable, and we are here to dive deep into her story. From her MBA studies to her extensive marketing work at companies like AB INBEV, Verhaert and also Eurovision, Alexandra has not only used her marketing skills but also embraced the world of international entrepreneurship. But that's not all. She's not only excelled in her corporate career, but also dedicated her time to be mentoring startups in their growth. As an angel investor, she will be sharing valuable insights about entrepreneurship and marketing. Welcome to the Marketing Memo podcast, where we explore the fascinating stories and insight of accomplished individuals who have carved their own path to success. I'm your host, Veronica, and today we have an incredible guest with us. Without further ado, please welcome Alexandra.
Thank you. Thank you, Veronica.
Welcome. It will be like confession. It was the first podcast in English. I'm quite nervous about that.
Can I confess that it's the first time I'm a guest at a podcast?
All right. So we're sharing our first times and at this. Welcome. I would love to be your first host, and I hope it will be a pleasant experience for you too. But hey, that's quite a remarkable resume you have there, Alexandra. Take us to a journey through it. So you developed yourself as a young marketer, and now you, as a marketing professional, you learned a lot about marketing. You went to business school as well, so within to Lyric, for example, and yeah, there you discovered some things about marketing that you took to your role as an angel investor today. So, what is that remarkable marketing memo that you can share with us along the way?
Yeah, thanks. So indeed, I like to say that I had like a 360-degree journey around the table of marketing and really tried different roles. I started my career in agency, so being like a writer, PR manager, then managing the campaign, then leading the team, really creating content. And then when I went to MBA in Italy, where I broadened my horizons to understand other sides of business as well. So really looking at the company holistically, and MBA master, another like a big perspective. And then after that, I went also in completely different role and like you can say function in a company, which was procurement, but was also procurement of marketing. So same working with agencies, but now really on the other side of the table, not being the agency pitching, but really selecting and really building these like contracts, negotiations, partnerships. So that was the 180-degree switch after the MBA. Then I went into commercial strategy, so really understanding the data behind commercial strategies and also how you go to new markets, how do you tackle new segments, all of that. It's still part with the AB InBev. And then I went into innovation management internally, which is maybe less about marketing, but I think it was more like a build-up of, okay, how do we find new segments? How do we find new niches? What's the next big thing? How do you shape the product around that?
Yeah. We actually have that in common a little bit. I always try to find something that I have in common with my with my guests. But actually, I also came from a role in marketing, and then at IMEC, at IMEC, I started to develop that like to a more value proposition, a proposition piece of the puzzle. So marketing does connect to a lot of business questions that you and marketing innovation is actually like two very interesting domains that when they are blended together, you get a whole new perspective of marketing or the business side of things. But marketing is everything. As a good marketeer, we think alike about that, right?
Yeah.
So explain further. So at you got into innovation, the innovation cluster of AB InBev. What did you discover there?
So what I was doing at AB INBEV it's called category management. Again, was not the title of innovation, but it was about exploring the white spaces and opportunities in the market for the beer segment. But it was all based on data and the data analysis that we did across multiple departments of InBev and also on a zone level, what we called, let's say, all Europe, and then specifically with the countries. So I was working with the 6 countries on day to day to really look for these things. And of course, we had also then maybe a more product development innovation would be a next step after we say, okay, this is the big trend that we see based on data, and this is how we can do it, and this is the opportunity. But then another team, we would hand it over to actually make it work. But these things are very long term, right? So we would do like a yearly review of these opportunities, and then maybe in a year 2 it would actually happen because yes, it's a big scale, big company, big commitment.
I certainly can agree that AB InBev is a company of quite a big size that can afford to do that. How can you descale? How can you put that into a startup scale? That craft of actually using that data to develop insights about the market and to translate that into product or a business or service innovation. Is that something that only can be done by companies like AB InBev, or can we also do that in a way on a startup level or a scale-up level?
Yeah, good question, and indeed a big difference. I think it starts with the fact that indeed, InBev can afford to buy themselves first access to very expensive data about the market, which is something that most of the small companies cannot do. At the same time, it's not only access to the data that you need. It's also like really the vision and ability to connect the dots, because the difference between, and I'm talking about any big company, is that then you have this attempt to connect the dots between different departments. It does take you, months or half a year to align on things, because you are only bring like one puzzle, of a big picture, but then your colleagues from another department will bring you another one, and then you put this picture together, and then your big management, let's say, approves it. So you can see that there is a lot of, management involved, and it takes time. So this is where small companies, startups, scale-ups, they're faster, more agile in all of this, because they are usually the 2-3 man businesses at the beginning, maybe. Or if they are already at a team of 10 or 20, then anyway, it's like maybe 1 or 2 people who actually talk about these things. So their advantage is obviously that they don't have to go around for months putting this picture together. They can have it faster, even without data, because again, it's layers, right? So you have just numbers, but then what's the insight? What's the qualitative part of this? What's the market evaluation? What's your, you also can say your judgment of it, so kind of a gut feeling in the end. So definitely smaller companies can do also very good things and not worse, or even like faster than big corporates that have access and they spend time and all of that. So I would not say it's a disadvantage that you don't have, let's say you cannot afford to buy certain studies to yourself. It's not your strong disadvantage.
It's actually can become an advantage because you're faster, you're more agile to adapt and to bring that insight into a project and launching and maybe failing and learning faster than a corporate would. But sure. But while in a more startup or scale up scene, how do I dedicate that time to learn and to do that business innovation, to include that part? Is it on a weekly basis, more a quarterly basis, or yearly? And how should I dedicate time to do that? Yeah,
indeed, then becomes like to do what, right? Because I would say that any data that you have from any source, the ultimate question will be, so what? And then, so what? Indeed, so the I'll not say disease, but let's say a bad habit of startups is to not be focused and try to test lots of things at the same time, or being inspired by, oh, I talked to this person, or there's an opportunity there, or client wants this, let's just go for it, let's jump for it. So indeed, this a lot of energy is really just dispersed. So there is no focus. How to do it? I mean, the teams can decide weekly or what, but there should be, I would say, overall strategy for a year maybe, or half a year, or at least like in this quarter we try this thing, or we have like certain assumption or hypothesis for your business that you test and then you iterate based on it. So of course there is no rule. It has to be weekly. It's just like pick one thing at a time and don't try to do multiple things, because then it's very energy intense for founders.
Exactly.
And also it's expensive if you're not. Yeah, you find yourself wasting time and money faster than you would like to.
Interesting. Thank you for taking that sidetrack. But so we learn from it that it's learning from the bigger companies as AB InBev that actually doing innovation and exploring new ways is something that we should look out for, but in a focused way. So our agility doesn't become like a disadvantage from lack of focus. So the thing is to put like quarterly and hypothesis that you're going to test based on market research or other things that you've experienced, or customer the customer data that you've collected yourself, and one hypothesis per quarter will help us to be focused and to learn. To be exact and specific about what exactly are we measuring, and not just collecting and crunching all the data, but doing something specific with it. Okay, we took that sidetrack, but actually we were exploring your journey within Verhaert, within AB InBev, where you worked as a marketer to learn from the market actually, and to come back and with new innovations and things to adapt. What did you learn there overall?
Well, lots of things. Of course, yes. I would say what I learned is that corporates are actually also often not different from let's say startups or scale-ups in the way they approach internationalization. So it's always often like per country or even per city approach. So that's also something good to remember for, again, early starters, because we are like balancing these two topics. But don't think that also big companies tackle everything at the same time. They of course have different teams dedicated to the country, but still, like the level of investment is also not always super high and super fast. I would say it's maybe more common like a myth, or something that people think it's so easy there, but there also the approach is very not say tailored, but like really focused. So sometimes it can be really a decision, okay, we want to explore this country, but we will start with just one city to go to. So that was my experience with it. But yeah, also indeed the long-term thinking, I think, even though you can say that indeed these companies are very like driven quarter to quarter, but still there is much more long-term thinking or understanding. So that's a good habit, and also some routines. Also, I learned a lot about routines there. Negotiating. That was another super skill that I learned there, being part of the procurement team. That's I think it's a separate topic that it's also undervalued in marketing. Let's say professional skills portfolio.
Interesting. Yeah. How so? Without getting far into negotiating, but how did you?
It's more about like, again, you as a marketer you always first you pitch yourself, but also you pitch your idea, you pitch your product, you also sell. I think lots of people, I mean, for many marketeers, sales and marketing is not very separated, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So then to be just equipped with like certain insights and skills to know what's the other side of the table thinking, and also understanding like my I think biggest insight is that the both sides, the buyer and seller sides, they're actually equally powerful. I mean, can be different case, but let's say on the seller side, you always feel like buyer is more powerful, but on the buyer side, you somehow find yourself that you're also, let's say, screwed sometimes by the seller. So it's nice to know that it's not so black and white there, and the techniques apply. And then again, if you go through certain trainings, you also see the certain techniques that are used on you. So I think it's a useful skill in general in life, I would say, to make it broader.
Exactly. Maybe we should take a deeper dive into negotiating some other time. But back on track. So while you were developing your career as a professional, as a marketing professional, as an innovation professional, at some point you got to a point where you now are an angel investor and run also an agency, silent agency, a PR and marketing agency for international companies, because there is a herd to take there. You've been breaking barriers since like 99 maybe. So what is there that is maybe scary for startups or scale-ups to do when they're at the point where they want to scale and roll out internationally?
I will start from my decision maybe to go into entrepreneurship, and it's just something that I would say now at this point is already like second time, because the first one was a little project before MBA when I did with my friends. It was a little furniture company, and it was going well for a year and a half. But as very young and unexperienced entrepreneurs, we had our issues. So let's say that was over. But after immediately I went to MBA, and I just remember this moment a year after into MBA, I was sitting on entrepreneurship class and realizing that everything was going right with our startup. We just didn't understand what was going on.
All right.
And we had like lots of stress and fights between each other, because this is the very typical issue with startups. So because of this, like not understanding where we're going and being in the boat, it becomes very stressful for teams. And one of the top 3 reasons why startups fail is the disagreement between co-founders, right? So
interesting.
I was there, and then only later to realize that if we knew upfront, things could have been managed and all of that. But that was already, a story old. So I think since then I had this feeling that, I might come back to this topic because it's interesting. It's just very interesting for me personally. I like to start things from, scratch. So that's how, we're being in a corporate career, I knew that I will start something sooner or later. And yes, for the last few years, I was combining it. Indeed, the PR agency, something that shaped out of it. So indeed, it started for like little consultation projects for fashion and skincare companies, and then more culture-related projects. Then yes, the Eurovision is another big legacy of mine and topic. So all of that shaped into the PR agency, silent agency as it's now called. But of course, I cannot get rid of my expanded horizons of indeed the innovation and understanding finance better than I used to. I'm still not a finance person, but at least now I understand, and I actually really like looking at finance, which is, again, I'm completely not a finance person. Just for the record, in the MBA, I was always this marketing person that doesn't understand anything about finance. But I learned to understand just exactly what I need to just enough to be able to take right decisions and see through the numbers. And now it's just interesting for me to really support and find entrepreneurs that have big ideas and like real innovation. Again, by real, I mean some sort of invention or really alternative way to do things. It's not just about like, let's say, newer packaging or new category, but really some difficult, you can say, to an extent, or interesting topics. So that's what calls me now to be like a business angel. And the training linked to that I did during the MBA, then Unveiling specific course to venture capital, and also now I went through the angel investor related training. So really like as a certified independent angel investor at the moment. So yes,
cool. Didn't know really that I thought you just need to have money to be an angel investor, and so you can call yourself an angel investor. And it sounds like a bit cute, more like more or less. But what is an angel investor? Please clarify.
Yeah, I also thought that you just need to have money, and you do need to have the money, but you can also be angel investor with small tickets or let's say small funding, but you can then be more what you would say a business angel, which helps with a network or taking company to their first big step, either in sale or indeed a bigger investment. But it's not, I mean, if you really are very wealthy, then you can just give money without any questions asked. But of course, it depends what do you want to do? So going back to the question, who is angel investor? So it's a person who really invests their own money, first and foremost, into company at a very early stage. So it can be just an idea, really, without even anything. And this is really your money and your preference. So on one hand, you don't have a lot of science behind it, because it's your judgment, your call. And as an angel investor, you then pick the topic that you like. But you can also be, let's say, more, not say senior, but let's say more active angel investor, where you provide capital or you provide a syndicated, what it's called, like basically a group. You bring other friends with you to invest. But then you also provide your expertise. So, for example, my expertise would be marketing, go-to-market. So I would say, okay, guys, this is the money, for example. But then also this is my expertise, and I think you should do, X, Y, and Z on the go-to-market question. So
what do you get in return from that startup?
So you get equity, or you get access to equity, let's say in a later round. But usually it's about equity. So you negotiate how much time.
Therefore, negotiation is an interesting...
Therefore, negotiation comes in, yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's just not a unicorn that spreads rainbow dust for a company to become successful.
No.
All of a sudden. Okay, interesting. Okay, cool. So, and what is that marketing memo that you feel like you where you have connected the dots with all the experience you've had and all the paths you have chosen to get to a point, including the MBA that you did, that you did. To what point, to what major insight did you come? And can you share that with us, please?
Now, well, I would say now from the perspective when I look at early starters and people with good ideas. Usually, indeed, the two areas that they immediately look out for help. When you say, okay, what's your biggest next step? They say, we either want first clients, so income, revenue, or we want investors to help us to get to the first clients. So it's immediately for me a bit of a loop that you cannot get to proper marketing and you cannot get to maybe sales at the scale you want without resources. And then these resources are either indeed still on your product development, but it's, let's say, maybe in recent conversations, it's much less. And also it's much less for the companies that are not developing something very difficult, let's say scientifically, some kind of space innovation or, something else. Then they would usually ask for the R&D. But those that have the product in some sort of shape, let's say MVP, the minimum viable product, or some kind of beta version, or even like a proof of concept, what it's called. So they already have some success with a small group. They will always look for money from investors to expand. But then you need to expand smartly, right? And then this is how it comes back to me, to the fact that it's not okay just, or let's say it seems too easy just to give money for marketing and just, look at it as a black hole or like some kind of magic box that you just pour money into marketing and then the success will come. So that's the biggest insight, that for people who don't understand marketing, they would be like, isn't it just supposed to work? You also know maybe... Exactly. Maybe this big, I don't remember now who exactly, but one of the big founders of marketing, or anyway, it's just, so people say, I know that 50% of my marketing spend is wasted. I just don't know which one.
Which one, exactly.
Yeah. So.
I wish I would know it by heart, but I know the guy's name starts with a W. Let's discover later. Yeah. We'll put in the show notes which guy it exactly was. But yeah, that's a quote coming from like, even though the 80s where marketing was more or less easy, like the Mad Men marketing, that it was actually more easy back then. Now it's even harder.
Yeah, now it's more crowded indeed.
Which one? But I remember I pinpoint two things that I really like about what you're saying. One is, and then you can get back to your insight. It's a really big build-up. That's the insight.
Because again, people look for money to invest into marketing, but then they don't know how to invest into marketing, because marketing is just something that these marketing people do. Or is it just a pretty picture? Or is it just a nice branding? Like, what is marketing?
Exactly.
That's like
Yeah, I can get it. Totally get it. So it's they understand they need investors. They are looking for that extra cash. But then when they got it, they don't know what to do with it and how to spend it wisely. What are their options there when they get the money?
So indeed. So when we talk about the company, like a very early stage, let's say you have just 2 co-founders or 3, one is usually technical, another business. But business does not necessarily mean person experienced in marketing. It's more maybe a person good with finance and understanding how to set it up. It's good when it's a marketing background, I would say, in general. But let's talk about people who don't have completely marketing expertise in their team as a co-founder. Another interesting aspect, when people raise and ask for money, they also say, we want to expand into new countries. And usually they pitch like 4 countries at the same time, or they are, from country X in Europe, and they say, we will immediately go to US, which is a very typical and tempting route for startups. So the red flag is there. Like, let's say people will not give you money without you having like a convincing story why exactly this market. But at the same time, you yourself as a team think, well, why do you select certain markets? And also, again, example of Europe, you say we will go into 4 countries: Germany, Spain, France, and Italy. Not understanding fully the differences between the countries, like cultural, business-wise, etc., or immediately shooting far for such gigantic markets like US, which is also a very big country with a very big diversity into it. But again, this sounds a bit like basics, but somehow people, I mean, again, in a startup, it's very difficult to not be tempted by just like this. Okay, let's just go and try and run around for a while and then see what works out. So that's another typical mistake, I would say.
And how to prevent that from? What's the smart thing to do there?
Well, the smart thing is really to understand where is your potential customers are, and also where do you think you can add value as a product or service in the market. So
does that value has to be extraordinary, like one of a kind, or does that value, can you enter a existing market and with an existing product and do it internationally, or is it just stupid to do? There has to be an innovative aspect about it.
It has to be differentiated. It has to have a strong differentiation. So indeed, there has to be a level of innovation in general for startup, but in your go-to market in a new country, you have to be differentiated from what is there. And also, again, the typical thinking is, let's pick the most wealthy country, people that have money there. But it's not by this that you choose that you will create value there. It can be less wealthy country, just to give the perspective, but your service can help people to solve, a very strong problem. And yes,
job to be done.
Yeah, job to be done with a smaller fee for your service or for your product, but with a bigger scale, you get the traction in the same way.
And that's what investors looking after when you're pitching your ambition to them.
Yeah, that's what we.
How well you know that market you're about to enter, and basically, if we scale it down, that's not only a problem that startups or scale-ups going internationally should consider. It's something that every founder, big or small, should consider. How well do I know the market that I'm entering or that I'm operating, or how is the market evolving while I'm serving that market?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they completely. Indeed, they take extra look into how you rationalize and how you really have the vision on this, and it's usually something that goes into, or let's say during the process of so-called due diligence, right? So let's say you meet someone, you say, okay, I like your idea, let's sign the letter of intent that we want to work together, but then there is a process of really deeply reviewing the business model, and this is what, let's say, active business angels really do. They really look at you and see how you work, what's your plan, what's your thinking, to really make the final decision. So it's also not like people immediately, give you money. And the more you grow into how you are, let's say, you grow in ticket sizes, in funds that you go to, the more in details people can look into these things or question them or etc. But another point I would say, maybe let's say it's a point kind of number 3 about the different markets. We talk a lot about like geographical markets, but also markets meaning can be just a different segment. And there as well, you need to understand where do you create the value. But I think indeed this is something that you are preaching a lot, the value proposition and having it done right. I would agree that indeed it's a common mistake that you just say, okay, if we just, let's say we have a category of women and then we want to expand into men as well. And we have the same assumptions about, men as women again. But it's a different world, and you need to understand really what's the value that you're adding there and what's the difference.
Okay, and marketing is also a difficult cost, or a cost that is oftenly estimated too high. How do you feel about marketing as a cost? You've mentioned it's burned easily. How to prevent of marketing being a cash burner actually?
That's very.
And how to detect that?
Yeah, not straightforward question, but I would start indeed with how to detect it at the level of indeed you looking at the projected, let's say, financial plan of your startup. Which in any way, people like to call it, this financial plan, a poetry, because this is like assumption on assumption on assumption. And some people, in US and UK, I think it's a stronger culture to even not look at it at all, because this is so vague. At the same,
can I quote you on that? Business plans are poetry?
Yeah, yes.
Interesting.
People call it poetry indeed. But at the same time, I think it's still poetry worth doing. And also the way you do it shows a lot about how you think. So my most favorite red flag on a financial plan about marketing is when I understand that marketing is like 50% of your, let's say, general and administrative costs, or it's almost equal to your cost of goods sold. So when it's really high and you understand that this is just a cash burning machine, but you understand that this is also like just a marketing burning machine, because your idea, your product, whatever it is just needs so much maintenance on the marketing level all the time that you will never get enough synergy or enough traction to have company going by itself in a healthy way. So this is how you like, let's say, can spot potential marketing burning machine. And this applies a lot to projects like a marketplace or like a platform project where you say, oh yeah, we're going to bring these people for this to buy from the other side that we also bring. So you're like basically, and then you need to spend a lot on indeed this broad reach. And your differentiation is not strong enough. So people just come and go after 1 month, let's say, yeah, the crunch rate. So this to me sounds like you guys are just going to have to spend on marketing.
An example of that business model that maybe did well and the other ones that have failed. So the listener can have like an idea about what that...
Well, I would say, I mean, I don't have an example now, but just think about the... we talked about marketplaces, but marketplaces that actually stick to you as a customer. And okay, I'm not going to talk about Amazon because it's a different game, but let's say about secondhand resale fashion, right? So there is this one platform, Vinted, that it's more popular than the other, right? But you can say that there are a lot of people trying to do something similar, or say, let's do this, but I mean, maybe you tried to use it once or twice, but then it went away. Or, I mean, now I cannot really have like a sharp case of, okay, this company really did well. But it's really about, let's say, or people, platforms that provide, let's say, experiences, tourism experience also.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you start with something small, or yoga retreats. And then you have like, if you just Google yoga retreats platform, you have many of them, but do you really have one place where you would go for it, right? And then in the end, you kind of fall back into either a more well-known brand or something that it's just very specific to let's say a service that it's very well-known or recommended to you by your friends.
Okay. Like, so there is no place for, like, there's a bit of like the winner takes it all principle there. And it's difficult to enter, and without you to enter this market and outgame the biggest performer in that market and keep your marketing cost low. It's quite impossible.
That's indeed. Maybe another example can be in the fashion segment. I don't know if people will follow, but I would suggest let's just like read some news about. There was this Farfetch, a big luxury resale sales or a big luxury online retailer, and then there's like Yux Net-a-Porter, and then there is My Teresa, and then there are others. So, like, let's say 10 years ago, it was like a very hot, growing marketplace, etc. But somehow 10 years later now, Net-a-Porter, I think it was a bit in trouble and taken over, or vice versa, the Yux Net-a-Porter was taking them over. Why? Because again, the game of brand power and just like spending, having certain level of spending on your marketing just goes up and up and up. And somehow they didn't, make their marketplace stickable enough. So
okay. And how to solve that?
I would say differentiation, really. So really being this, place that you only, go to because X, Y, and Z, and it should not be price. Also another common mistake that these maybe marketplaces, it's not the case of this Farfetch and Yux because they are luxury retailers, but let's say some marketplaces just think that by providing like a lower price, they will maintain the loyalty of the customers, etc.
I have specific case of a startup that I was looking into, and the founder of that is really struggling with getting the revenue. I think that maybe coming across an angel investor would be something that is very interesting that would be interesting for him. But if I first asked him the question of differentiation, then why and I asked him to compare himself with like the biggest player in that market he's operating in. His answer was, but we are cheaper. We are way cheaper. So your suggestion is, if the biggest is not cheaper, nobody else will come from you. If only the only thing that you offer is a lower price.
Yeah, I think if the only thing you offer is lower price, then there will be there can be someone who comes after you with even bigger capability or ability to make a lower price. But again, this is like a race to the bottom. Yeah, maybe another industry to look into, but this is more like an inspiration to our listener. The last mile delivery, for example. So it's an industry that it's very, you could say, subsidized by large investors' money, but indeed the revenue model there is broken exactly for this reason, because everyone tries to just go, as cheap as possible. Etc. And then you see that these companies were like on a hype during COVID and a little bit after, and now more and more people understand that this is just a money burning machine and etc. So to the point, if just the price is or just being cheaper is your main value proposition, it's not gonna stick for too long. Yeah.
So to sum it up. Know your market is the first rule of thumb that you shared with us, and the second one would be like prevent marketing to become a money taking, money burning machine. How do we do that exactly? Like in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, think about your marketing as something that will eventually, on one hand, become viral, but more like will become something that people want to recommend to each other. So again, this is about differentiating and really creating a value proposition for your customer that, after you acquire them, they stay with you and they recommend you to your friends. Because again, acquiring new customers all the time is expensive. It's a common knowledge, right, that we know from as marketeers. So try to make your customers stick to you.
Try to make your customers stick. Strategies to try to make them stick?
Well, that can be broad from different markets. Really, like there's no one secret sauce for this. Definitely not with the price competition. Again, like what we were saying about.
Exactly, but we can do a whole new podcast on how to make marketing the customer stick on a retention. Note to self: I should invite a guest on retention marketing. But indeed, it costs like 35% less. Or 65%. I will put the exact number in the show notes to resell to an existing customer. We're all like raving about customer acquisition, but as an investor, as an angel investor, you're looking into that potential of retention as well. How to make it stick?
Yes,
Interesting. Okay, what about branding? Maybe if one, for example, a lot of startups feel like they should put branding first on their agenda. Should you advise to do that? Probably not.
Again, depends in which category you're operating, right? If it's a B2C environment, but also in B2B anyway, you need a brand. So let's say brand building. Our lesson number 3, let's call it. I think what is important to understand about brand building is like in the times where you are restrained on your marketing budget. So what we would call like indeed brand building efforts. So indeed more campaigns. If we talk about not TV, but more like now social media ads, and then the bottom your performance marketing, which is a bit like a harvesting of what your brand building effort was built. So in the times when companies, let's say, cut budgets or are restrained on them, they usually cut first the brand building part. Would you agree with that from what you're...
Exactly. I'm nodding. Yeah. When did you experience that first within AB InBev, for example?
Yeah, I saw it in the big companies where it's like indeed when the financial financial crisis, but in general, like financial troubles, people cut marketing and consulting.
Exactly.
So, and marketing then is cut sometimes from the brand building perspective if it's done wrong. I mean, I've seen, of course, the cases where indeed the brand building part, which is in a big company, a big corporate, would be the ad spend and really the ad spend, media spend, what we've called, then it stays, and then maybe some other effort, more research is cut. But this is like a preparation. But again, the mistake that you can make in this decision is really, just like lie low and don't market yourself and say, okay, we are just scratching it blindly, without evaluating, okay, in a year from now, after the market, the country, your segment will emerge out of the crisis, but you will be a little bit, behind of all of this effort. And whereas if you can save, but redistribute smartly, and you can maintain a certain level of activity during this hard period and just, stay top of the mind. And emerge stronger from the crisis. So this big thing that people like to talk about, the crisis and opportunity to, emerge stronger. How do you emerge stronger is actually not completely killing your marketing and picking this one thing that really maintains your brand. And again, this is really difficult to say what is it, because for B2C is something else.
You should know and you should discover. For B2B, I know that from an agency perspective that I've experienced that it used to be like easily 10% of your revenue, but now, like, if you get 7, you must be very happy. So I think there is like a little trend going on that because because so many companies promise marketing attribution, and it seems like if you pick the right strategy, it's so easy. It comes to you easily. That it's also a reason to cut on marketing budget, because we have managed to measure the return on ad spend in a way better way. So the return on investment, like where this marketing dollar goes to. There are different approaches and different strategies, and we feel like we know it better than we used to do. But actually, that it's not a reason. Knowing it better is good, but it's not a reason to cut on branding and brand equity, what is more difficult to measure, right?
Indeed. I would say to the point that we had that half of marketing is lost without knowing where. Usually, it's the brand building that is a bit difficult to measure, because indeed, if you have hard, metrics and you all data there, then you're like, okay, then I see it here. But it might be not what actually moves the needle, because indeed, and this is where we go into the madman era of this fluffy marketing. Yes, these fluffy things can work sometimes more, but again, because they're non-measurable, you don't know, you just don't see it. Like also, I just remember in one of the conversations with a big, indeed in a big marketing business, that you really don't have a direct link between what people buy in a supermarket and where exactly they saw your brand the last time, right? It's impossible to link. It may be in like social media ecosystem, little one, it's a little bit easier to connect when you have all the, the tracking cookies in place. But in the world of offline world, again, supermarket, you just bought something because, you saw this brand somewhere else it's still impossible to measure. So you just don't know.
But still not a reason to cut down too much on branding. So we have to watch out for marketing to become a branding to a money killing machine, to a money burning machine. But don't cut it too much to a point where you don't invest in branding anymore. Why so, Alexandra?
Because think about it as a tree. So it has to be like, consistency in investing a little bit, but over a long time, and also really like small effort. So consistency. It's it's useless to have like a money of, burning super, or let's say half a year, like super, super, super intense campaign, spending ads, only to just go silent completely for another next half a year, etc. So again, in these situations when you have to make these hard choices, it's just to decide, okay, what is the little thing we can still keep doing consistently? And also for everyone who just starts with their own marketing, again, I'm talking about small companies. The very often you need to really just start somewhere with little effort but consistent. So
introducing consistency and to it. I like the term harvesting that you've used. So the two ways to do marketing, the brand building versus performance thing. How do you see it in terms of what's the balance there from your perspective?
Balance in the budget spent, or
between the balancing out like planting and harvesting as you describe it, or balancing out brand building and performance marketing.
So the performance marketing, in this case we call it harvesting, because you are already like chasing down on your leads and let's say converting them, right? So that has to be nurtured from the brand building. So let's call it roots and planting seeds. And I think the performance marketing or the level of your conversion can be affected by also external factors, like indeed the market condition, etc. But the brand building is something that it's more controlled by you. So, I mean, I cannot give an exact percentage. Should it be like, 70-30? But I would say indeed just looking into the ways. So let's say 2023 is a difficult year for everyone, and people are not investing and not investing in marketing services or buying. We see like a decline. So indeed, we can. I mean, it's not good to stop completely now and then in 2024 start from zero. So again, picking small effort that will make sure that your brand stays on top of the mind until people are ready again in let's say 2024. This is like really made up. I'm not trying to make any projection here.
No, exactly.
But staying on afloat, right? Because again, think about in the previous crises during COVID, for example, right? Even for someone, it was the best time for their brand. For someone, it was the worst. So how do you make it for yourself? That's, again, I think it's really the mindset message that I want to send here. It's not...
but it's also making marketing as a part of your vision, and of course we cannot control the market. We can do a lot with marketeers, but we cannot control opportunities or threats coming out from external point of views. But implementing that in your business and in your strategies is very important. So coming back to the thing you said about business plans are poetry.
Financial plans.
Financial plans are poetry. Just it's just magic with numbers and making yourself rich in Google Sheets. but on the other hand, from where you're standing, you should. You should really balance it out and not cut down on branding at all, or too much. But I think it comes down to metrics, right?
Yes.
What have you experienced? What are you looking out for?
So indeed, I would say that's our point number 4 as we slowly transition. So like I just said, that financial plan at early stage of a startup is a poetry that changes all the time. Doesn't mean you don't have to do it. At the same time, for a marketeer, as much as, again, this is completely stereotypical, but they say, marketing people, they don't like numbers and all of that. I know the marketing people love numbers. They should love, and if they don't, then they should start liking them. This is really, I'm speaking from my personal journey. because as a marketeer, you need to know basics of your indeed cost of customer acquisition, your lifetime value, etc., etc. I think again, this is maybe can be an obvious truth for many, but maybe not people who really feel comfortable with numbers as marketeers. Just get engaged and know it's really about 5 metrics again, like
name them.
Indeed, the customer acquisition cost, return on sales, lifetime value of your customers, being comfortable reading budgets, which is not just one number, but like knowing, okay, this is how much I spent, knowing also what's the share of your marketing in the total P&L. So like I said, when you understand that you are on par with your cost of goods sold or other big expenses, you understand that your marketing is really like the bloated line in it. That's a red flag. So again, learn to manage it and understand why is it so. So where are you maybe not using your budget rationally, or you ask too much, or maybe certain things can be done in a cheaper way.
Or you should adjust your business model, or do something about your proposition that will change that drastically if you cannot manage that. Yeah. If we translate that for most of the listeners, are like solopreneurs creating some kind of service towards other B2B companies. So for them, I would change the cost of goods. Like cost of serve. Balance out your cost of serve. How do you serve, and what does it cost you to service to service to one client? So marketers or business founders should do that first before they start marketing at all, or do they have to start doing that and then track those metrics along the way?
Yeah, they can. They definitely need to start tracking it, because it's not like they have, again, usually upfront budget and they immediately set aside X. They just need to understand, okay, this is how, also early stage, how much can you actually afford? But just being able to track it from the beginning and know your habits, or let's say know your reality. Let's say you can discover that, so there is a general principle, but it's very general, like from 20 to 30% of your P&L can belong to marketing, but not more. So like I say, if it's a 50% of your P&L, it goes through marketing, then it's kind of a marketing burning machine. But it's, again, this 20 to 30% is very generic notion, but you need to know a bit more specific to your business. Like you start and then you do one type of marketing activation, call it, I don't know, paying for some ad in some magazine, or spending X amount per month on social media for half a year, or setting up your email marketing. So what is giving you actual return? Or maybe you just went to this one amazing podcast, that gave you a natural or organic, coverage of your brand. Or indeed you are featured in a Vogue of this world.
Yes.
So
this is the Vogue of the marketing podcast,
exactly. Right? Yes. So this one feature can make it for you, make it or break it for you, compared to indeed a consistent even ad spend. So you just need to know where
exactly what did move the needle, and
what more worked for you as a brand.
Yeah.
And again, I've had experience where it was really just an article in one magazine, which is like a 10% of the entire PR activity and even bigger marketing budget, but really this article, because it's like such a place and people really read it and people really trust it, that they really, generate customers.
Should you chase that again and again? Because that's knowledge coming from your PR agency, probably. PR is mostly oftenly forgotten because it's difficult. Yeah. It's not that easy to track as the impact of PR is not that easily trackable as marketing performance or ad spend, for example. But actually, what I do there often wise is like having this matrix between impact and effort, that creates 4 quadrants. I put that in show note, guys, no worries. That puts that in so it's interesting to put all your activities, your marketing activities into that quadrant.
Yeah.
Like what created the most effort and had what had big impact and had a lot of effort, maybe, okay, that we should invest in consistently, but keep track of our marketing spend around it and of our marketing effort. But the things that is really the low-hanging fruit is actually the ones that are have incredible impacts, but had a relatively low effort. For example, that one PR campaign.
Low effort, but also like, because we talk about here like marketing as investment and the metrics, it's also like can be low cost for you. But again, you don't see it if you don't track it. And again, as a marketeer, like let's say the typical fight would be of the person responsible for finance in the company. With the marketing in the hard times, they just scratch everything. So again, how you as a marketeer can defend it exactly by providing this evidence and saying, no, this particular X and event or this PR effort or this channel of our communication, this is not killable because X, Y, and Z. So I think really it's important for marketers to be empowered to have these conversations and my message is that start knowing these numbers, and in the financial discussion you can be stronger because again, it's just like I've seen that people are disempowered in a way, and the CFO is someone who usually is much stronger in these debates, and they say, okay, no money for marketing, forget it, and then you are just sitting with nothing.
If we put that more on the startup scale, where the co-founders mostly, or where those skills are embodied in one person, like most of the times we are, and the marketer and the CFO of our own company and the product marketer and the product engineer or the service engineer of our own company. If we're solopreneur, then you really have to be the marketeer as well, because a lot of and the CFO as well, because a lot of startups came to me as well with this note. Oh, but I don't know marketing. I don't understand marketing. I will invest in marketing as soon as I earn my first dollar. So or what have you. And there I feel like no, that's the part you cannot outsource that easily. You have to track it yourselves, and you cannot expect that of your junior marketer maybe, or the marketing agency that is doing performance marketing for you. You really have to do it yourselves, right? You have to keep that knowledge in about those key metrics in-house.
Yes. Yeah, I would say I would rephrase it in a different way, and we can also make it our next big takeaway is that you probably indeed an open question. How often companies that are, again, they are not what you would call marketing native, they hire their first marketing agency or PR agency or digital marketing agency, and they're completely unhappy with the result, and they feel like they burned their money.
It's not your agency's fault.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to kind of justify this whole world, but the point is that as a founder, as a CFO, as a CTO, as anyone who never studied marketing, you need to know, okay, what exactly I want from this agency. And this goes back to, do I want them to plant seeds that will not grow next month, but maybe in half a year? Or do I want them to really, go harvest? Again, this is because, we were investing in our brand for X amount years or X amount with another, again, and I'm really now taking a aspect of or a view of a big company that has separate agency for everything. But in reality of a small companies, it's usually like a one all-around agency, right? But again, as a founder and as investor, let's say without marketing knowledge, you need to understand what is exactly this agency is doing for you. And the common mistakes would be like, let's hire PR agency and expect the sales to come up, or let's just spend some ads on, or let's say, spend a digital marketing agency and ad spend on social media. And again, just expect sales magically to grow, or let's buy a brand book expensive and expect sales to grow. So it's a lot about not having these expectations right from the beginning as a founder, and then being frustrated that your marketing agency did something that was just a waste of money. So again, then there is a legitimate frustration on the side of CFO, CEO, you name it, if these expectations are not clear.
The metrics. Knowing those metrics will help you to acquire marketing agencies that will help you, or marketing resources that will help you to get a grip on this. So you use the metrics as well to establish your priority, maybe in a way.
Indeed. So these metrics, like someone that needs to know, like people need to know on both sides. Let's say there is a people like marketing side and not marketing side. So both sides should know these things that are applicable to their company, really knows what moves the needle. Going back to the question, our point 5 about, companies being frustrated with their agencies because of these different expectations. So how do you start? Again, it's job on the both sides. So you as CEO, CFO, you kind of educate yourself on the basics. Don't go into this magical wishful thinking that, marketing just going to solve it. At the same time, marketing agencies need to know themselves and, again, be able to provide these things, and almost because, again, they are seen as an expert to come to, right? And this is what I would also like preach in my practice, that indeed we are seen as experts. So we should say, okay, this is what is the realistic expectation. And yes, sometimes it's saying something that it doesn't sound so good, or again, not selling too hard. So it's really a job on both sides, because you can also, as a marketing agency, go all the way explaining all this theory, and then your client can feel overwhelmed, like you were,
of course,
or still didn't really understand this, right? So there's a lot about like educating your client on the marketing side and what to expect. But if the client is also mature and did different projects, did some marketing effort, maybe it will be easier, or they will know better what to look for. So
And what about those? So as a founder, growing internationally, you need at some point a partner or an agency to accompany you on that track.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to outsource some things. You don't have to do it alone.
Yes, indeed, because indeed, once you selected your market, you know what works for you. Let's say PR, social media, events, whatever. Then you accordingly go into the new market, and you already know what kind of partners do you need locally.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So that's also something that you should do. Like look out for a local firm to that really understand the market.
Yes.
And invest in that.
Yeah.
Based on those 5 learnings, we can consider that it's not a one man or one woman job to actually scale internationally. That you have to keep track about everything and anything all at once, and that maybe educating yourself on becoming an international entrepreneur and not keeping yourself small, and learning all the financial skills, for example, and self-development or business development, where is also a very important thing to do. because you don't have to do it on your own. So that mindset aspect of actually taking that leap and going and going outside the borders or international borders and putting yourself on international waters, what would you advise on that, like learning from your mistakes or investing in self-development or how to keep track of that? What would your advice be there? Because there's this whole mindset aspect as well involved as well. How can I grow as an entrepreneur to become ready for international scale, to become ready for an angel investor, to grow a pair, to ask for budget for money, for example, for an investment? What would your advice there be?
Yeah, I would say that the learning curve is inevitable, and but then the question is indeed how much it will cost you, and it's about indeed having the right people to learn from, and it can be indeed maybe your a close peer of similar kind of companies, or indeed the experts in the market, consultants as well. So indeed, like we were saying, they are also cut immediately out of the budget. But again, I would say it's an investment, and it's of course on what you would say like a bottom part of your P&L, right? So it's not affecting immediately it should not, and it's not affecting your cost of goods sold or cost of serve. But it's your payment for speeding up your learning curve, because if you don't do this, and it can apply either for marketing or in general, like learning about the market, then it will be like spread around as a cost or like a cost on all over your P&L, right? Because you will not get the certain revenue that you wanted. Your pricing will be wrong, so maybe the COGS also will be too high, etc. So it will come out, right? And we all know that the learning costs is just either costs, time, and really wasted budgets, or you indeed try to find yourself people that you trust to guide you and to learn from. And yeah, of course, there's always like a time and place and also amount. Don't procrastinate all the time in just going to like from course to course. There should be a healthy balance. But I mean, in my experience and having an expert who can guide you through accelerates your growth toward the goal always. And again, it can be marketing specific advice and consultancy, or fundraising advice and consultancy, operational efficiency, you name it. Yeah, this is all an investment, definitely.
Oh, all right. So to grow a pair, to scale internationally, or to scale at any point, not even internationally, is actually to find out what skill you're trying to accelerate, or what piece of your business will impact, will have this impact on that growth that you're seeking for, and then go ahead and invest and balance out investment with like investing with integrating the learnings that come from that business consultant, for example. Okay, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you so much, Alexandra, for today. Where can we find you? What's ahead for you specifically?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, obviously. But I think the next big thing is the email and newsletter. So subscribe to the newsletter from myself. There you can have a bit more specific insights about either go-to-market or fundraising strategies for startups and scale-ups, and indeed insights about some particular markets, because I always help companies that want to go out of their home market, right? So if it's a Belgian company that wants to go out of the home market, or an Italian startup that goes out of their home market, this is where I come in to help.
Okay, cool. If the marketing memo with its first international,
by the way.
international podcast and podcast guests. Did I just exit my home market, or do I need some?
You took
some
a first
strategies?
step to get out of home market. That's true. Let's see what people will say.
Exactly. I will apply all the 5 secrets that you shared. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Veronica.
This was another episode of the Marketing Memo. Did you enjoy it? You can find all the references that Alexandra and I have discussed in the show notes. Feel free to share everything and anything you think about this episode and any struggle you come across about investing. I will make sure to pass that question on to Alexandra, definitely. And yeah, it's a relatively new podcast, and I've been doing it for a while, this guest sharing thing with you, and it would give me a lot of fuel and energy to see you listening to this podcast. So watch that YouTube video. So don't hesitate to share your impressions with me. And if you think that this piece of information, those 5 secrets, would be interesting to you or a fellow founder or co-founder of any company you know, please share. That would be very, very nice. See you soon. Thank you. Yeah.